Here's the kind of man who never had to break into your life. You opened the door for him. Handsome, charismatic, disarmingly calm. A smile that made people feel safe right up until it was too late. No, I'm not talking about Ted Bundy. I'm talking about Paul John Knowles, the Casanova Killer. In a terrifying crime spree in 1974, Paul John Knowles cut a bloody path across America and left a trail of victims. His rampage was one of the most savage and unpredictable in the nation's history. This is the story of how a man charmed his way to murder. Paul John Knowles was born in Orlando, Florida in 1946. His childhood was unstable, and he began a life of petty crime at an early age, first being incarcerated at 19. From then on, he spent more time in jail than out. His life was a revolving door of prisons, but in early 1974, it seemed his luck was about to change. While serving time, he began writing to a California divorcee named Angela Kovich. She was so taken with him that she paid for lawyers to secure his release. Upon his parole in May 1974, Knowles was set to be with her in San Francisco. But it wasn't meant to be. Kovich later said that Knowles projected an aura of fear that terrified her, and she called off their engagement. Some accounts say a psychic had warned her away from a dangerous man. Whatever the reason, the rejection seemed to light a fuse. Knowles would later claim that he killed 3 people in San Francisco that very night. He returned to his old stomping grounds in Jacksonville, Florida, where he was quickly arrested again for stabbing a bartender in a fight. But this time, he wouldn't wait for the system to let him go. On July 26, 1974, Paul John Knowles picked the lock of his detention cell and escaped, stepping out into the night as a free man, ready to begin one of the deadliest crime sprees in American history. Knowles' reign of terror began the very night that he escaped. Within hours, he had forced his way into a quiet Jacksonville home, stolen a car, and left behind his first victim. It wasn't calculated, it wasn't careful, it was impulsive, and it worked. That set the tone for everything that followed. His violence had no rhythm, no signature, no logic investigators could grab onto. He moved constantly, crossing state lines with ease, targeting whoever happened to be in his path. Men, women, the elderly, even children. There was no type, just opportunity. In early August, he killed a woman in Atlantic Beach. Days later, Knowles would claim responsibility for the disappearance of 2 young sisters, claims authorities later questioned, adding another layer of uncertainty to an already chaotic trail. On August 23rd, he forced his way into a home in rural Georgia, killing a young mother. Then, in a moment that defied all understanding, left her 3-year-old son untouched. By September, the spree had gone national. A man in Ohio, a stolen car, a camping couple in Nevada, a beautician who traveled with him briefly before vanishing from the road entirely. Each stop added another body and another unanswered question. October only made things darker. Another killing in Georgia and a break-in in Connecticut that left an entire family destroyed. From one of these scenes, Knowles took a tape recorder, not for profit, but for something far more disturbing, to document himself. By November 6th, in Milledgeville, Georgia, the mask slipped completely. After befriending a man at a bar, Knowles was invited into his home. What happened that night revealed the full extent of his cruelty and ensured that this case would never be remembered as just another killing spree. Guys, I cannot specify in the details of what happened that night in this YouTube video, but just know that he did things before, during, and after the killings that are truly disgusting. What made Knowles so terrifying wasn't just his brutality, but his ability to hide it. One journalist who faithfully crossed his path described him as a cross between Robert Redford and Ryan O'Neal. It was this disarming charisma that earned him the nickname, the Casanova Killer. He could befriend a man in a bar and be invited into his home, as he did with the gentleman in Georgia. He could convince a woman like Jean Dawson to travel with him, believing he was just a charming companion. He even spent several days with the British journalist Sandy Fox, who was utterly unaware she was in the company of a monster. This charm was his weapon. It allowed him to get close, to disarm his victims emotionally before he destroyed them physically. One of his few survivors, Barbara Maybe Abel, later said that if she had met him in a nightclub, she would have gone out with him. He was handsome and polite, a perfect mask for the predator underneath. As the body count rose, so did pressure on law enforcement. The major breakthrough came on November 14th. Knowles broke into the West Palm Beach home of a disabled woman named Beverly Maybe. Once there, he abducted her 32-year-old sister, Barbara Maybe Abel. He held Barbara captive, but eventually released her. Her testimony finally gave police a name: Paul John Knowles. With his identity known, the manhunt intensified. 2 days later, Florida Highway Patrol Trooper Charles Campbell spotted Knowles driving a stolen car. However, Knowles managed to overpower the trooper, take his gun, and kidnap him in his own patrol car. He then used a siren to pull over another motorist, a businessman named James Meyer, taking him hostage as well. He drove both men to a secluded area in Pulaski County, Georgia, handcuffed them to a tree, and shot them. This brazen murder of a police officer set off a massive dragnet. On November 17th, after crashing through a police roadblock, Knowles fled on foot into the woods near McDonough, Georgia. The sprawling manhunt seemed to have lost him. By pure chance, a 27-year-old Vietnam veteran named David Clark was hunting nearby. He spotted the fugitive and calmly held him at gunpoint. When police arrived, Knowles, the merciless killer, was reportedly begging the civilian not to shoot him. The nationwide reign of terror was finally over. Once in custody, Knowles started talking. He confessed to killing at least 18 people, the number authorities have been able to confirm. But he boasted a much higher tally, claiming he murdered as many as 35. The true number will likely never be known. What made his case so unique was the confession tapes. Before his capture, Knowles had been mailing audio recordings to his lawyer, Sheldon Yavitz, detailing his crimes. He wanted to become a famous murderer and believed the tapes would secure his dark legacy. These recordings offered a chilling first-hand account of his murders, narrated by the killer himself. While many of these tapes have since been presumed lost or destroyed, they provided investigators with invaluable and horrifying insight into a mind driven by thrills and a lust for infamy. Before we get to the dramatic final end of this story, if you're finding this video compelling, please consider clicking the subscribe button and ringing the bell for more deep dives into history's most chilling true crime cases. The final chapter. Paul John Knowles would never stand trial. On December 18th, 1974, just 1 month after his capture, Knowles was being driven through Georgia by Sheriff Earl Lee and Agent Ronnie Angel. The official purpose of the trip was simple. Knowles had agreed to lead them to the gun used to kill Trooper Campbell. But somewhere along the drive, everything went wrong. Despite being handcuffed, Knowles allegedly picked the lock on his restraints. In a sudden move, he lunged forward and grabbed the sheriff's handgun. The car veered out of control. In the chaos, Agent Ronnie Angel drew his weapon and fired 3 shots. Knowles was hit in the chest and died at the scene. Just like that, the Casanova Killer's spree didn't end in a courtroom, but on the side of a Georgia road, violently and without warning. He killed for attention, recorded his crimes, and chased notoriety like a prize. In the end, he got neither. Just a sudden stop, a dead road, and a name history barely remembers. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click right here to watch the next one that is even more horrifying. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great night. Peace.